So he's 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 a lifelong Astro if he wants to be a lifelong Astro.
That's right.
So, all right. Well, we will get off of the infield and start heading toward one outfielder, not named Juan Soto, that I am very intrigued by, and that's Anthony Santander.
Another one of your favorites.
Yes, yes. For whatever reason, this whole crop of free agents are guys that I've been riding pretty hard over the last 5 years in fantasy, and it's worked. So, um, not that this is my team by any stretch of the imagination, but I would love to see Santander in Kansas City. Um, I like him in Baltimore. Don't get me wrong, but they have so many prospects, weapons that they can let Santander go and not have to pay him that money when they still have all these guys, Heston Kjerstad, all these guys that are going to be on these rookie contracts. So I think Kansas City needs
Potentially
him back.
could re-sign O'Hearn as well to help ease that loss some.
Yeah. Santander just turned 30, so he's not old. He's got just under 2,900 career at bats. I think if you slot his bat as a switch hitter in between Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez for the next couple of years until Salvi's out the door, you can rotate between Witt, Santander, Perez, Vinny P. It's a right switch, right left combo that can be really dangerous at the top of the order.
It can, and they're at a position I think they could use the experience and the quote vet status in that clubhouse. I have him going to the Jays. I think they're in desperate need of a left-handed power bat. I think they thought Varsho was going to be that. That has not panned out. And I was even one that thought it would. Like I was pretty big on Varsho. Thought that moving to Toronto was going to be a great move for him over Arizona, and it just hadn't panned out. For whatever reason, average dipped, and it seems like it's a lot better hitter's park, but his average dipped. That said, getting back to Santander, you add him in that lineup now, gives Vlad protection.
Bichette, who's coming off one of his worst year since he's been up.
Right. And he's too good of a hitter, I think, to stay down. So you get him back healthy, maybe back on track. You got Vlad. Now you give Vlad a legit guy to protect him in the lineup. And it's kind of like the Minute Maid factor. The new dimensions out in Toronto are catering to a left-handed hitter. The porch and right is fairly short. The gap is even short. And they got the weird heights on the wall that dip and rise to try and prevent some home runs, but I don't think that's enough to do anything really. That's just more of an aesthetic situation there because at the distance that the right center and right field gaps are, I think a left-handed power bat like Santander from the left side. I know he's a switch hitter, but predominantly going to bat left-handed because you see more righties.
Right.
I mean, I think he plays really well there. I think Toronto is still in the compete mindset, and they have the money to spend, being that a lot of their guys are younger guys.
Yeah. Yeah, Santander's averaging 35 home runs over the last 3 seasons. So,
yes,
when he turned it up in 2022, got full playing time. That was his first time hitting 600 at bat or 600 plate appearances. He is.
Think about this. Out of all the outfielders in Major League Baseball, Soto, Judge, Betts. I mean, out of all the big names that you can think of, big hitters that cross your mind, a Schwarber, Santander was 10th highest in barrels of all outfielders. This is a guy that nobody even thinks of outside of Baltimore, probably. Like even in that lineup, nobody really talks about him. And he was 10th among all outfielders in barrels per plate appearance.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
big.
hard to be quiet at 44 home runs and 102 RBIs, but when you got Adley and Gunner and Westberg and
Yep.
Mayo and
It's I I could see him working in KC. I could see him working in Toronto. I like both locations. I like Toronto from a statistical standpoint for him, and probably contract because they probably pay more than KC.
yeah,
I like
probably.
KC for the mindset I think of where you were coming from on competing and what he can add to that lineup to get them over the hump that they kind of ran into this year, where outside of Witt and Salvy with Vinny Peavy and Hurt, there just really wasn't much there. You know, they signed Renfro hoping he would add some power. He was down for a good portion of the year, and so yeah, big bat like that to insert in a 3 or 4 holes, huge.
Speaking of Kansas City too, I think Ken Rosenthal had put out yesterday that Kansas City was possibly in talks of trading Brady Singer to the Reds for Jonathan India. Now, I made the comment that I thought that India would be good for Kansas City because you could have a prototypical leadoff hitter batting in front of Witt and also a second base upgrade over Michael Massey. But their pitching staff is already kind of weak to be getting rid of Brady Singer. I know you've got Reagans and you've got Lugo. Walker's not. Walker, I'm not going to put Walker out there in a playoff game if I don't necessarily have to. And they signed him for a couple of years. I would rather have Singer in Game 3 if I needed him in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think this is where we disagree on one. I know you've been kind of a fan of Singer to a degree, at least from a fantasy perspective, maybe more so than real life. But like with me with Singer, I look at stuff like he is a career ERA over 3.5.
Yep.
He has been predominantly below 20% K percentage, with a roughly 7% walk percentage. So puts guys on base, doesn't strike a lot of guys out. So he relies on contact. In KC, that's worked okay for him, to a degree. But underlying numbers, when you look at him, he's not a guy I feel like that can't be replaced. Whether it be from in the system or from free agency, and I don't think even have to spend top dollar on a free agent. I think you could go find a guy like a Trevor Williams of the Nats this past year,
He
or
did
a
solid
Haney.
last year.
Yes, or a Haney, who, in my opinion, in a pitcher's part, could be decent. He's not a stud by any means. He's probably not even a 1-2. He's probably not even like a number 3 starter. He probably definitely falls in the 4 to 5 range. But I think you're going to get the same kind of production out of him that you would get out of a Singer. And so for me, if that transaction takes place, like India to me is it's a win for KC all day long. That said, on the flip side, for the Reds, it's not a bad deal either because they have a plethora of talented infielders.
Yeah, it's not even. They have to
With
get rid of somebody, and India's the one that's been talked about for a year and a half now. So
right, yeah, they have so many infielders. That's why he's even available. It's not because he's not performing. I mean, the guy's performing at a very solid level. But you put Singer in Cincinnati now. That is this stat blew my mind. The Reds Park is the number 3 hitter friendly park in all of baseball, which everybody kind of knows that. This is the one that caught my attention though. The park has led Major League Baseball in home runs allowed from 2020 all the way to 2024. So for 5 years straight now, they're the major league leader in home runs allowed park wise. So that being said, a lot of people would look and go, so why do you put Singer there? Like, that doesn't make any sense if the guy's a 3.5 plus career ERA guy with no strikeouts. But he's 75 percentile over his career in Major League Baseball on ground ball rate. So now you get a ground ball pitcher in a home run park. It could be beneficial for both sides.
So I was looking at it while you were talking. So Singer is a 4.28 career ERA in like 685 innings. Trevor Williams is a 4.30 in 900 and some odd innings. So I could see that being a viable replacement. What about?
And I would imagine if you compare just the past 2 years, it's probably pretty big separation.
Yeah. Well, Williams only started 13 games this year, but he was 6-1 with like a 2.08 ERA, so he was dialed in pretty good.
Yeah, he was rolling.
Another guy that if they did pull the trigger on that trade that they could sign and bring back to the AL Central is Jack Flaherty. Again, not a guy I'm a fan of, but he was really good when he was in Detroit. Sub-3 ERA, 7-5 record, 133 strikeouts in 162 thirds innings. WHIP was just under 1. I think him in that division as the 3 starter on a team like Kansas City, especially if they add a Santander, could be a good fit. What do you think on him?
I honestly, if I am any starting pitcher right now as a free agent, KC is my destination. For 2 reasons, right off the top. One, that Central Division from an offensive perspective it's possibly the weakest in Major League Baseball. As good as the Indians were and winning the division, if you go look at their lineup, it was Kwan, Ramirez, and Naylor that did all of the damage pretty much. Their bottom half of their lineup, I think, I want to say there's 7 through 9 hitters predominantly. Obviously both flipped it from time to time, but generally they were hitting under 220. I think 2 out of the 3 spots were hitting under 200 for most of the year. So they were getting all of their production and damage done by 3 guys. And Detroit was kind of same way. It was Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter until he went down. Every now and then some contributions from Veerling, who had a really solid year.
Yep.
But that said, just like I mentioned, we're sitting here talking about Matt Veerling and Kerry Carpenter. And even though he's a young prospect, still Riley Green, a guy that barely hit over 20 home runs, being the offensive leaders of some of these teams. And we don't even need to really get in discussion on the White Sox of how bad they are offensively.
Terrible.
So yeah, if KC could sign a guy like Flaherty to add with Cole Reagans and Lugo and Waka, I mean, yeah, they can win the Central and now really look to try and do some damage in the playoffs, I feel like.
Okay. All right. So now we got that out of the way. You think Santander is going to end up in Toronto? I'll put him in Kansas City, and I'll also say that the trade for India goes through. So I think Kansas City's lineup is going to be pretty dangerous next year at that point. We'll get to the other outfield bat. We don't have to do a lot of talking about Juan Soto, but where do you think he goes? Or does he stay in as a
I think he enjoyed New York. I think he enjoyed the park, hitting in front of Judge. I just had this feeling he didn't enjoy it enough. Like, I don't think those were enough factors to keep him there. For some reason, I don't have a good reason. It's just my gut feeling. I think he either winds up with a team like the Red Sox because of other relations, money. Not that the Yankees can't pay, just but I really could see him signing somewhere like with the Mets. I think him and Lindor probably hit it off. I think they're I just think the vibe with him and Lindor staying in New York, staying in that big atmosphere, getting paid mega money by the Mets because they want to compete. They want to outdo not only the NL East, but as well as the crosstown rival in the Yankees. So I personally have him with the Mets or the Red Sox as destinations. That said, I could easily see him signing with the Yankees or the Dodgers, either one, because they're the two biggest paying franchises out there. And at the end of the day, for a lot of guys, money talks.
I don't necessarily see him going to the Dodgers. Obviously, they can get whoever they want to get. I feel like they bring back Teoscar Hernandez on a multi-year deal, and I think they're going to turn their attention to the pitching side of it to
Well,
eliminate a
did you
lot
see
of the
what the Dodgers
injuries.
did though?
What's that?
Did you see what the Dodgers did though?
Uh,
They've announced already that Betts is moving back to the infield. That opens the right field spot up, which is where Soto happens to play. So
yeah, I still
you
think
you
they're
have
going
that you
to.
have that option available now. And
Yeah,
with Otani's stupid contract of $2 million a year for
in
a
years,
couple
and
of
then
years, then the money's there. They can go throw it out there at him. They can spend it.
they'll probably give Pages and Altman another run. I still think their pitching. I know they won the World Series, but Kershaw's unknowns, Glasnow's unknowns, Bueller's a free agent. Gonsolin and Mace haven't pitched, I swear, since COVID. Um,
Yep.
Flaherty's obviously leaving or possibly leaving. That opens the door for them to throw millions and millions and uber, whatever adjective you want to use,
Yep.
amounts of money at Roki Sasaki, Blake Snell, Max Fried. Fried is a California kid. Um, so I think Soto stays on the East Coast. I think he's going to stay in New York. I personally don't think I could leave batting in front of Aaron Judge ever in my life.
I wouldn't, not with the short porch either, but
No.
like I say, just something about it. I just have this feeling like that is not his place. I don't know. I may be wrong.
Yeah. No, I could definitely see him staying on the East Coast, even if it was Boston or, and I know he just met with Toronto as well. So there's that.
And it cool thing is about him, I'm not a Soto fan. You know that. I've already said if I was a pitcher, I'd hit him almost every at bat because I hate the little shuffle. I think it's disrespectful, big time. Um, that
Full of death.
said, that said, looking at his numbers, diving into his numbers, his Statcast stuff is mind-boggling. In that Statcast generally keeps up with 13 main categories. They obviously have more, but they have 13 main offensive categories. Out of the 13 Statcast categories, this dude finished 98 to 100th percentile in 8 of the 13 offensive categories. Like, not, he's top 5, top 10, top 15 in 8 of the 13. He is 98 to 100th percentile in 8 of the 13 Statcast categories. Like, he's that means dude's probably top 3 in 8 of the 13 offensive numbers. And when you look at the numbers, it's not like he had a 315 batting average. He hit 280. He did hit his highest home run total he's ever had with, I think, 41. That attributes to the short porch. So, but that said, 8 out of the 13 categories, he was 98 to 100th percentile in MLB. I don't think, I may be wrong. I don't think I could find another hitter doing that unless maybe it was Judge. Maybe.
Yeah, it's hard to fathom anything that Juan
And the
Soto
dude's
does.
only 26.
Yeah, I mean, he could get a 4-year
He's-
contract right now and then a 10-year contract, or he could get a 14-year contract and end his career somewhere. There's so many different things that could be done, especially after the Ohtani contract last year.
Yeah. As much as I dislike him, Duke will go down as one of the greatest hitters we've probably seen.
Yeah, without a doubt, he's special. Well, we're at about an hour right now. We can kick into the pitching. I got a few pitchers that I want to discuss. I brought up two of them a minute ago, and Blake Snell and Max Fried. The third one I want to talk about was Corbin Burns. I think Corbin Burns stays in Baltimore. I think they're going to open their wallet to try to get that, make that happen. They need the pitching. They probably need to add some more, honestly. Kyle Bradish is going to be coming back this year. Means is a free agent, but I assume he'll stay. A lot of ifs, ands, and buts. But I think
Yeah.
Burns stays.
I have him down as staying with the O's. Keyword if he's willing to. I think it's all going to be on him. I agree with you. I think Orioles are going to be willing to pay. I don't know if that's somewhere he's wanting to be. Not at all taken away from the competitive mindset, because every dude in the majors is a competitive ball player. You don't get to that level without it. That said, I think you do have to be strategic sometimes, not all the time, sometimes, in that, do I pitch in the AL East facing the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and go through that gauntlet throughout the year? Or do I get paid the same amount of money to pitch for, say, a Royals in the Central, Twins in the Central, or Cubs in the Central, or somebody that's in a slightly weaker division, or the Rangers in the West, somebody like that you can get more incentive and bonuses from your contract because of the numbers you put up, as opposed to you miss out on some of that by pitching in the East and going through that on a daily basis. That said, I think he's enough of a competitor that he doesn't mind that. So that's why I say if he's willing. I got the statement if he's willing. I got realistically, I could see him going to the Mets. They need starting pitching. They're either fixing to lose Manaea or have to pay him.
Severino.
And Sev out too. You're losing two of your top pitchers from the previous year. Neither one of them were statistically, I think, what you would call a true ace.
No.
Manaea could have been, a solid 2. But I have him realistically to a team like the Mets.
I think he just won the most amount of games he's ever won in a season. Still had a sub-3 ERA, 194 innings. His strikeout total was a little lower, but he was still an all-star. I don't see going to the Mets doesn't make it any easier pitching against that division when you've still got Atlanta banging out what they've got, the Phillies banging out what they've got, and Washington's lineup is going to get better, as we talked about earlier. You do eliminate having to face the Mets if you do go to the Mets, but Baltimore's lineup is probably 1 or 2 in the East of the AL East. So that's a wash.
I think for me and the Mets, it's more of a money issue. I think they dole out way more than the Orioles will consider.
You know,
Um,
I know it's a lot about money and his agent being Scott Boras. But I think what made him so mad with Milwaukee was the lack of respect. I think if you go
yep.
to a market like New York, it's so fickle. I think Baltimore would be a little easier to handle, being that he's already done it and succeeded.
Yeah.
So that's my reason to stay. I think they're going to pay the money. They're not going to pay what Cohen would pay. But I think the money mixed with the relaxed nature of the area, I think that keeps him in Baltimore.
I have him down as the second best starting pitcher free agent.
Behind Snell,
No, behind Sasaki.
well, yeah, we'll get to Sasaki later at a different
And
thing.
but I have him as the second best starting pitcher, and I have him. He's still young enough; he can be signed long term,
Yep, just
without
turned
the
30.
worry of
And him just
without the
turning
worry of
30,
you
he
having
doesn't have
those
a lot
extra
of,
years that you're not getting anything.
yeah, he doesn't have a lot of miles. He's only thrown 9 innings. Um,
Um, Statcast wise, like he was a sea of red. He's above average in every single category. That said, I think the days of the domination, like you saw in 2021, I think those are a thing of the past. I think he's through with those just because the K numbers are not there anymore. The strikeout numbers are not going to be what they used to be when he was dominating.
Sorry, had a little
No,
malfunction
you're
here.
good.
Yeah, computer is dying. So this is fun. Um, so of the other free agents,
I have Snell as the third best starting pitcher on the market.
so Suzuki,
Um,
Burns, and then Snell.
yep, and I wanted to put Snell above Burns, even though he is older. I think he's 32. But the reason I couldn't, and his stat cast was across the board really even better than Burns, but there were three outliers that for me put him as third. It was number one, his age at 32. I know pitchers can go a little bit longer than hitters typically, but still he's 32. The second factors with the first factor in his work ethic, and that's something that has been mentioned privately behind closed doors more than publicly, but there's been some serious concerns about his work ethic in the past, and as far as his off-season routine and how he comes in shape or out of shape. You take that is something that gets talked about. You pair that with 32 years of age. I would just be I would be scared to sign this guy to a huge long-term deal. Um, and then statistically, outside of the other stuff, statistically, the guy's walk rate is, I think it was like in the low, I think it was the 19th percentile of Major League Baseball. He's one of the worst in walk rate of the upper echelon arms. And so when you have a guy like
1.1
that,
walks per 9 over his career.
yeah, when you have a guy like that, that yeah, he may post 220 Ks and 180 innings and finish with a 2.9 or a 3.12 ERA, all solid numbers, can't deny them. But as a fan, at least, and even probably even more so from a fantasy perspective, now you have a guy that is starting and out of his 30 games only hit 6 innings, maybe right at half of the time, or even maybe less than half of the time. Most of the time he's going 5 because he's at 90 pitches,
Starting this fifth inning.
ending the fourth inning,
Yep.
going out with a short leash in the fifth, and so You see a lot of games where he's 4 2/3 or 5 innings pitched or 5 1/3, 10 strikeouts, 3 walks, no runs or 2 runs. And you're like, yeah, overall it's a good outing, but he's leaving the game early a good portion of the time, as well as when you walk at the rate he walks, there's always the blow up games where he may not get out of the second or third because he's done put 4 guys on and given up 2 home runs in the process, and now it's 6-0 after 2, and manager's like, all right, we're not going to let him sit there and waste pitches. We'll go to the bullpen early.
I think it was a game he had against Seattle this year where I almost had a meltdown because of a scenario like that where I don't think he made it out of the second inning and threw like 75 pitches, walked 6, and only gave up like 3 runs or so. It was something weird, but I was on
Against
my
a
side
team
of the
that was
phone. I was
number
having a
one.
meltdown.
Yeah, against an offense that I think was number 1 in baseball in strikeouts.
Yeah,
Offensively. Yeah, as a fantasy owner, you're like, okay, this is the perfect matchup. Fixing to gain points. Second inning is 6-0 with 4 walks. Your whip's out the roof, and you're like, what in the hell just happened?
And
And in
Snell's
Rob's
probably the
case, a
reason
lot of
you won't
times
win this year. Huh?
yeah, and in Rob's case, a lot of times that's when you hit the drop button on the app.
Yeah, I'm quick to hit that red button if it's too bad. So where do you think Snell is going to end up, since you had him right behind Sasaki and Burns?
It may not be surprising, but to me, it's surprising just because I don't really know that they have to have him. But I got him going to the Rangers. They
Was not
lose
expecting that.
Eovaldi. They lose Eovaldi. DeGrom is you don't know if you're going to get a full season, a half season, third of a season out of DeGrom.
Scherzer's on the market.
It's John Gray. Like they've been back and forth with him, whether they like him, don't like him, want to use him, long reliever. It's like they believe in him when he's good, and when he ain't, they're quick to pull the trigger and throw him into the long relief role or skip a start. And so I have him pegged for Rangers. I think they're willing to spend. I think they're disappointed after the way the season went. And a big reason why the season went the way it went, I feel like, is pitching.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they've got enough young guns coming up the pipe that a pretty decent contract for Snell could keep the timeline going where they want to go. I would like to see him go to Atlanta because I think they're going to lose Max Fried, which we'll obviously talk about in a second. I don't think they're going to open the pocketbook for him. I could see them opening the pocketbook for Eovaldi. Just seems like an AA type move. I think Snell is going to end up in Boston. I think he'll go back to the East.
To give you a little bit of hope, I had Braves as number 2 option.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those. It'll be one of those where I watch the game and he blows up against the Cubs with the wind blowing 25 miles an hour in, and I'm losing my mind and pulling my hair out. But so yeah, I think he's going to end up in Boston. Something about it.
Do you have a reason for Boston?
I saw that they had interest. I was reading that they need pitching. We went back and forth on them at the beginning of last year, and they were better than what I thought they were going to be, and then a little worse than what you thought they were going to be. But their offense is legit, especially if they do add a Soto, which you have. So if you can add a Blake Snell to the top of that rotation, he's used to pitching in that division and being in Tampa for so long. I think that could be something that could really change the tide for Boston moving forward.
And I think that's why they're even in the market for guys like this. Is I think they realized this past year that they're closer than they may have thought they were.
Yeah. Okay. So last one. This one hurts a little bit. I think he's been pumped up a little better than I personally feel about him, but he's been good nonetheless. Max Fried. I think he goes home. I think he goes to the Dodgers, and I don't think there's much to say about it.
I have Padres with Dodgers as number 2.
Yeah.
I went both of those for him being a Cali kid.
Yep.
I think the Padres need him worse than the Dodgers do.
Well, not
That-
having Musgrove
that
this year
said-
definitely makes that viable.
That said, I don't know that that's enough, but that's where I have him. I have him to the Padres. I just think losing Musgrove, I think Darvish is to the point where you don't know. I mean, you don't know if he's going to stay healthy. It is the thing.
Yeah, and he's 30. He just
I
turned
want
30.
to say he's IL'd the past 2 seasons for fairly significant time.
2024, he threw 81 and 2/3 innings, and 2023 he threw 136. So he's got 218 innings over the past 2 seasons combined. So 40 total starts.
Like when he's there, he's still fairly effective. He just,
Yep.
I think the uncertainty there. I think if you can take a guy like Fried, who you can pay less than Snell, less than Burns, pair him with a Dylan Cease, and a Michael King, I think you have a pretty formidable 3-guy front there to give them a chance with the offense they have to compete with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And they competed this past year, but like we say, they're losing Musgrave, they're losing, at any time in the season could lose Darvish again, and be big to have that third arm.
Yeah, I bet San Diego wishes they had never gotten rid of him to start with, but hey.
Yeah. Snell too, for that matter, probably.
Yeah, I mean, he did win a Cy Young for them, and then went.
The thing I got with Fried, consistency is the thing that comes to mind. He's not an overpowering guy. He's not a huge K guy, but it's almost guaranteed 6 innings out every outing. It's a guy that even if the numbers don't speak this, it's a guy that you feel like every outing is 6 and 3, 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs or less. Like that, it feels like that's kind of what you can expect.
Yep.
Now the K total may range from 8 to 3, but you feel like he's keeping you in the ball game.
But you know what? I mean, he's at almost 1-to-1 K per 9. He's at 8.8 over his career, over 9 innings. For a guy with a 3.07 ERA for his career, that's livable.
That's like I say, consistency is the term that stands out to me.
Yeah.
It is a little concerning that his velo's declining some, even though he's only 30.
Yep.
And another one, and this kind of leads toward the Snell factor, is his walk rate has increased in the last 2 seasons, with it actually being doubled in 24 from what it was in 22.
Yep.
He had like a 4.4
160.
walk rate in 22, and this past season it was an 8. So you start to lose velo, you start to put more guys on base. I think that's why you're seeing the ERA jump a little, but still at the end of the day, still consistency is the name of the game with him. I think 6 innings, 3 earned runs is just that mindset of, we know this is what we're getting. And as a team, offensively, if you know every game he's on the mound that if I can score 3 runs or more, we're in it.
Yeah.
That's a huge boost mindset wise.
Especially with the teams that we've just mentioned. Even if he stays in Atlanta, San Diego, the Dodgers, all those offenses can put up 3 runs sleeping.
Yep. And the Dodgers, Padres, both of those West teams, home area in California, but also good pitchers parks.
Yep. Well, there you go. We ran
One
a little
wild
long.
card to throw at you.
Huh?
One wild card to throw at you.
All right, who you got?
The number 1 best pitcher, free agent pitcher, in my opinion, Sasaki. Let's not dive into it too much, but I'll tell you why I threw him out there. The fact that teams cannot throw huge money at him,
Because he's not considered a free agent.
accompanied with his age, I think I think he's got to be number one free agent starting pitcher, because now you're talking about getting a guy at with the level of stuff of an Ohtani, a Burns, for fraction of the cost. That said, it's probably, and this is why I don't have Fried to the Dodgers, because I think they end up being the leading team to get him. I think the idea and the prospect of playing with Shohei and being on a team that needs starting pitching as well, I think that's his destination.
I think he ends up there. I think Fried ends up there because the money's coming out of a different pool with the international signing pool. So the Dodgers have a chunk. He's going to want to play with Ohtani. Fried's going to go home. They're going to pay him like they've done Freddie, Mookie, Ohtani, and they're going to roll out Glasnow, Sasaki, Fried, Kershaw, Bobby Miller if they want to, or if they want to send him down to Oklahoma City down here, I'll watch him all season long. They'll let Bueller walk, even though he's got the final out of the World Series this past year. But the Dodgers can do what they want to do.
If they sign Sasaki and Fried, and the vets that they have stay healthy, you can hang it up. It's World Series champs again.
If they can keep that staff healthy with those additions, they're a 120 win team. They set the record, I feel like.
Yep.
So that's a depressing way to end this first episode, is us talking about the Dodgers winning 20 games.
Hey, it's better than the Yankees.
No,
I don't like them. I don't like them much more, but I'll take them over the Yankees all day.
no. At least Judge is homegrown. Both teams just can trade their 17th prospect for the best pitcher on the market and the best bat on the market. And everybody's like, okay, it's the Yankees, it's the Dodgers. I trust them. And then here we are.
Yep.
So, yes, well, I appreciate you ending my night with depressing thoughts of the Dodgers winning the World Series again.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, well, we're going to get out of here and try to get back in the next day or two and get another little bit of video posted. Next one won't go an hour and 20 minutes like this one did. Hey, but you know what? Hang in, watch it, listen to it, enjoy it. Follow us, like, comment, subscribe, the whole thing. This is something we enjoy doing, and once we get into a little bit more of the in-season stuff as the season rolls around next year, then we'll have a little bit more arguments and maybe be a little more exciting. You get to see maybe get to see me drop somebody live while we're recording one night or something.
Yeah, I'll try and get Rob fired up on the next one.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, man, that was a good first episode, and get on out of here, man.
Yep. Take it easy.
Peace.
See you.